we got better over these last 3 days. A lot of work went into this, and I thought our scouting department, led by Goody, did a hell of a job, and we're just excited to get these guys in here.
Matt, it's another really large draft class and a lot of versatility. When you look at the youth that you already have, bringing in another large class, how much competition are you looking forward to in the offseason once camp starts?
Well, that's always the goal, is to bring in as much talent as possible, and now it's our job to maximize the talent and try to push these guys to new limits. And but we certainly added, especially in some areas that we really needed it, added a lot of competition.
What's the biggest way in which you think your defense specifically has gotten better these last 3 days?
I just think in terms of, first of all, we always do a really good job of adding high character players into this organization, but just the way these guys, the physicality that these guys showed on tape, their ability to run and hit, that gives us, leaves us very optimistic.
Hey man, along those lines, I know the game has changed. Inside or off-ball linebackers are a little smaller than they were 20 years ago or whatever. But how do you stop the inside run with 230-pound linebackers?
Well, I don't think it necessarily matters. I mean, it does to some extent how big you are, but I think it's about playing sound football. And if you really want to stop the run, a lot of times you got to commit more people to that, and you play single safety. So you talk about 8-man boxes, and everybody's got to play their gaps, and we're going to have to do a great job. And it always, for me, it always starts up front. Getting off the ball, creating havoc, getting penetration, and everybody doing their responsibility.
With Jordan Morgan, you got a guy that can play anywhere. As Brian said, get him to the coaching staff and see where his best place is. Do you start him at left tackle since that's premium, since he can play that position, and then kind of go from there? What's the plan for him?
Yeah, I think that's where naturally where you look. That's what he's played his whole career, and he's played a lot of football. So, but ultimately, and I know you guys love to hear me say all the time how we're going to get the best 5 out there, and I think there is some cross training that goes on along the way, but ultimately we just got to get the best 5 that give us a chance to move the football.
Matt, what excites you the most about Lloyd, the running back?
I think he's a piece that, first of all, he's big. He's 220 pounds. He's got really good speed, and I think he gives us an element out the backfield. He really showcased that the week of the Senior Bowls, especially in the one-on-one situations that he was in, and just gives us a little different flavor maybe.
What's your comfort level at corner right now? It seems like you're putting a lot of bags into Eric Stokes and Carrington taking that year 2 jump.
Yeah, I think that just is, first of all, we got a lot of confidence in those guys anyways. Through 2 weeks of the off season, the guys have been really getting after it. All those guys, Jair, we got Corey Ballantyne back, obviously CB, Stokes looks great. So we've got a lot of players that we're confident in terms of just being able to go out there and play at a high level.
Matt, it's like the whole safety position's been revamped here with all these new guys. What's this going to look like how do you envision it?
I think it's going to be a very competitive situation, and it doesn't matter necessarily whether you're a second-round pick or you're a UDFA. I mean, our job is to find the best players to go out there and compete at a high level, and everybody's going to get an opportunity.
Matt, what did you learn about coaching young players last season that you can apply moving forward? You had some pretty veteran teams at first, and it looks like you guys are just going to keep loading up draft picks and getting young guys in here.
I think probably the number one takeaway from last season was when things weren't going great for us, the guys stayed resilient, and they had something to prove. And I think a lot of times when you get a lot of youth in your organization, the circumstances don't necessarily matter. It's about proving yourself day in and day out. And the guys did a great job And this is why the football character is so important, because they did a great job staying together, staying connected, believing in one another, and quite frankly, pushing one another to continue to try to get out of the muck, so to speak. So, yeah, I think that youthful energy it can be good for us.
Do you think you'll be better, like I know there were some times where you talked about, I don't know what exactly, how much to push these guys or how much to put on them scheme-wise. Do you think you have a better feel as coaches on how to deal with that youth too?
Yeah, I would say so. I think, more so probably from an offensive standpoint. Obviously you got a new defensive staff for the most part, so there's going to be some learning along the way.
Matt, you've mentioned football character a lot. I noticed 5 of these players were captains when they were in college. Was that a conscious choice, or did that just happen to be the best players available?
Yeah, I think that all of that is in effect in terms of when you're grading these players and when you're stacking your board, and it just kind of fell that way. But we're fortunate that it went that way.
With Pratt, what did y'all like and what you saw from Michael Pratt, the quarterback you took in the last round there?
Yeah, I think he's a guy that he definitely is a tough, fearless thrower, and to me, that's a prerequisite for the position. You got to be able to stand in there and throw in muddy pockets, throw in the face of pressure, and I think he exhibited that. I think he's a winner. So, we were excited. We were kind of shocked that he was still there in the 7th.
Matt, as a quarterbacks coach background yourself, how exciting is it just to have young guys come in at that position? You had Sean and Alex last year, and Pratt. What is that like for you to be able to work with those guys at the very beginning?
Yeah, it's like they're a ball of clay, so you can kind of help try to get the most out of them. And we got a great room, obviously with Jordan and Sean in there, and then Tom Clements is as good as I've ever been around in terms of developing quarterbacks, and Connor Lewis, and now we added Sean Mannion to the room, so it's just a great room to be a part of.
See the difference in Jordan Love at the start out with all the off-season work here?
Yeah, I think he's a guy that is coming in with a lot of confidence. I see him pushing himself each and every day in terms of just his ability to lead the guys, and I think he's done a great job.
You've mentioned best 5 on the offensive line for years now, but when you have so much versatility, maybe the most versatility you've ever had, how do you conceptualize that? How do you go about and look at the cohesive whole instead of the individual parts?
Well, I think it's a process, and you got to give these guys opportunities at multiple spots, and I think Adam Stenovich, Luke Buckus, Eddie Gordon now, they've all done a great job in terms of giving guys ample opportunities to showcase what they can do, and then it's on us to try to find the most cohesive unit of our guys.
How important was it for you as a coaching staff, seeing how well Jordan operated with a clean pocket last year, to really be able to build that up as well as possible going into the second?
Sure, I think that's most quarterbacks. Most quarterbacks are going to be more effective when you have time to set your feet and you're not retreating from pressure, and you can step into throws. So that's what we expect out of what we get up front.
Hey Matt, Brian, John, Eric, they both came down here and talked about how the game is changing and speed on defense is so vital. You guys obviously have added a lot. From a play caller standpoint, how does speed at all 3 levels of the defense challenge you?
Well, it just makes everything much more contested, especially when you have safeties that can run the alley and hit your runners at a couple yards down the field, and just be tighter in coverage, so it just is much more competitive.
Is Stokes, is he healthy, full go?
Yeah, he's been full go. He looks great.
Matt, do you expect Xavier McKinney to sort of take a leadership role with the young guys that you brought in and the guys that you already have? Is he that kind of personality?
Yeah, he already has. You can see it in the meeting rooms. You can see it out on the field. There's a reason he was voted the captain in New York. I've been really pleased with X, through 2 weeks.
Along with Pete's question, it's the same deal with Watson. How's he looking?
he looks great. He's, he's had a really good start to the offseason, and we just gotta keep it going that way.
I know it's April 27th, but do you feel like you've really got answers, or is that just, you're gonna have to get the real football stuff to maybe have 100% confidence say?
I think, yeah, once you get into more competitive environment, less controlled, I think you want to see how people respond, but I've been really happy with how these guys have been training in regards to the routines and just watching the effort that they've been putting on tape.
That was the amount of, play action you run with the amount of movement in your run game. Do you have to have guys like Jordan Morgan, the athleticism, and those type of linemen now? Is that sort of the standard for what you need?
Well, I think you're always looking for athletic linemen, especially when you consider who they're going up against, every play. The athleticism on the defensive lines around the league is typically superior to that of the athleticism of the offensive line. So you want to have big guys that can anchor and move their feet and stay in front of people. And so I think he definitely has got that ability in his body.
Is there a height for an offensive lineman where you start to get concerned about leverage on run blocking?
I think I used to a little bit more, but the more that we've done this and the longer I've been in it, I think it's just every guy's a little bit different. I mean, there were some really tall guys this year that we thought were pretty good players, both in the run and the pass. So we'll just have to see how it all plays out.
How much did, coming out of last season, knowing that this was going to be another very young roster this year, affect your decisions in bringing in Jeff, defensive coordinator, and dealing with a very young team?
I wouldn't say that had a whole lot of bearing. I think it was for us just trying to find who we felt was best suited to lead our defense. And, as an offensive guy, offensive background, I think that you can kind of poke holes through every scheme. You can always find the warts in it. And for us, it's a style of play. The effort that we're going to play with, how physical we are, how we attack the football, whether it's, in the air or a ball carrier punching at the football, trying to get the ball out.
Brian was saying last night that for linebacker, he wanted interchangeable traits. He wanted length and speed, but really kind of making sure that he hit those instead of going Sam, Mike, Will. In terms of defensive philosophy, how different do you expect those positions on the second level to be? Are they going to be pretty standardized?
Yeah, you really would, in an ideal world, you'd like them to be interchangeable, at least in our scheme. There's a lot of crossover responsibilities, whether you're the Sam, the Mike, or the Will. And I mean, shoot, the majority of football now, you're playing in nickel defense anyway, so you got two backers out there. And but there's a lot of responsibilities that overlap.
Matt, with the kid you drafted from Duke, Monk, he's started I think like 50 some odd games at 3 different spots. How important was that, just given the lack of depth there on the interior?
Yeah, I think that was huge. First of all, it gives you another guy that can play center. That's something that we're always trying to look for, is guys that have that ability, whether it's a guard or a tackle, to kick inside and snap the football. So we're always trying to cross-train somebody in that regard. And I think that just from everything we heard about the guy in terms of just kind of being the alpha in the room, we felt really good about him.
What sort of buy-in did you sense from Jair? Obviously, he wasn't here at this point last year. He did show up this year. Do you think he's fully bought in?
Oh, I think Jair's been outstanding. He looks great. He looks like he's in great shape. He's really been busting his butt. He's been, been the leader we expect him to be. So it's been a great start to the offseason for him.
Hey, Matt, we haven't had a chance to talk to you since the Brazil game was announced, so I'm
Yeah.
curious how your feelings
All
are.
right.
Feelings
Here we
are
go.
about that.
Some real questions.
Yeah, and logistically, obviously that does some things for you guys timing-wise. Have you been able to work that? Is it gonna change when you can start camp because you gotta go down there earlier?
Yeah, there's a lot of things we're working through right now that we don't have all the answers to, unfortunately. So hopefully, one of these days, they'll get back to us and some of the logistical things that we gotta jump through. But at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. It's an opportunity to go play in this league. We're playing, the advantage is we already know who we're playing. so do they, but it kind of helps you prepare for, training camp and week one, and, hopefully it'll be a home crowd for the Green Bay Packers.
I know it,
Can you fly out of Green Bay?
That's a heck of a question there, Pete, that I don't know the answer to yet.
I know it's a really long flight for week one, but it's also a road game on a neutral site. Is there any benefit to that?
Absolutely, that's what I'm saying, like, when you go to Philly and play a road game, it's gonna be a hostile environment, so hopefully being a neutral site game, that'll give us an advantage.
Silver linings.
There you go.
Matt, you didn't do the greatest job of hiding your feelings about going to London. Did you learn anything from that and how you have to maybe embrace this? Because
Yeah, we will embrace this, absolutely. I know it is a long flight, it is a long trip, but it's the same for both teams, so. And like I said, the advantage of playing a neutral site game, I think that there's a lot of advantages of that.
going back to the competition, you've always believed in that, right? That's why you put basketball, room, and all that stuff when you got here. It just feels like though that there is so much, that Goody talks about it constantly now, you talked about it. Did something happen, maybe watching the way the wide receiver room unfolded last year with all those young guys, where you guys maybe intensified even how important you think competition is? Did something change there, do you think?
I don't necessarily think something changed. I think it kind of, are you referring to just how we drafted 3 safeties and two linebackers?
Right.
It kind of is just how it unfolded, quite frankly, and I'm a firm believer that you can never have enough competition. It's going to bring out the best in somebody in that room, and so I do think that when our guys are pushing one another, they're going to get better, and so that's what we're really excited about. I think we got a lot of competition, and it doesn't just pertain to the defensive backfield or the inside backers. I still think, I look at our wide receivers, our O-line, our running backs, tight ends. I mean, everybody's competing for snaps, for balls, and I just think that we're going to be in a better place because of that.
Is that especially true when it is such a young roster, when there's maybe lesser defined roles and there's so much room to growth, just having the competition breed that development?
Yeah, I think there's some truth to that. I mean, when you're younger as a team, maybe there's less guys that are established, and you might not have a true number 1 receiver, whatever it may be. And so I think that, it can organically happen over time.
Matt, where is JJ in rehab from the ACL from the Cowboys game? Do you think it's just a foregone conclusion? He probably misses a chunk of this season.
No, I wouldn't rule that out. So, he looks pretty good right now. He's still, fighting his way back, and it was never confirmed that it was an ACL. Like, he did not have surgery, so he's still rehabbing through it, and we're optimistic about it.
Matt, I know the draft just ended, but next year the draft will be here in Green Bay. How are you feeling about seeing the process in Detroit and having it come here to Titletown?
Well, I didn't really see the process in Detroit. It's whether it's in Detroit, New York, wherever it is, it's pretty much the same for us. I do think there's gonna be some challenges that we're gonna have to deal with next year. I'm just seeing the amount of people. What they say, over 700,000 attended the draft. I can't imagine that many people in Green Bay, but it's going to be interesting. But it's going to be exciting. I think it's going to be exciting for the community. Obviously, it's going to bring, I would think, a lot of money into the community, which a lot of these businesses will benefit from. And I think what better place than to have it than, in my eyes, this is the Mecca.
You want to have to get an airlift to the stadium to get through the crush of people? Or?
I don't know. That's something that I'll let Doug Collins and his people worry about, how we get in.
Two more, please.
Matt, where are you, or where, I should say, is Halfley in terms of formulating what you're going to look like when the season starts, when training camp, and does the draft impact that at all?
Well, we're 2 weeks into this process, so, the vision is there. It's already laid out, mapped out, and now it's about the execution of that vision. So it's teaching our players, you know, their assignments, what coverages, what fronts we're gonna run, and then just trying to get everybody to play to a certain style, I would say. And you have to go through the whole process. So we just had phase 1. We finally get to get out on the grass with our players in phase 2 for the next 3 weeks. And then we're into OTAs and into practice. And, you know, I think you can't truly get the full benefit of it until you get into pads. I think that's when it will really come to fruition.
Matt, you knew what his vision was, and you hired him, right? So
Sure.
you had a pretty good idea, but when you start going through the process now, since he's been here, how much of a, you know, what have you learned more about him or more about the philosophy? And I assume your excitement has only just ratcheted up as you've gotten deeper into it.
Yeah, I've been able to go around to different rooms and listen to all our coaches teach, and I'm really excited about it, to be honest. Just the energy, the attention to detail. I think all these guys are really good communicators. And I think our players can feel their energy and excitement for being here.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Thank you.